Starting maybe. Hey, there we go. And welcome to the Hot Tag Podcast. It's been another long layoff for us, but WrestleMania just happened, so I guess we're kind of back, and we'll try to do this a little more regularly again. But anyway, I'm Chris.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tom.
And I don't know where you guys want to start off. You guys want to start off with the I guess the somewhat epicness that was WrestleMania?
Yeah,
Sure.
Well, one moment of epicness.
Sure.
Anyway?
I mean,
I almost felt like it was a lot of like non-match things that made it more cool than the actual matches. I mean, there were some good matches.
Yeah, there's some decent matches.
I got caught off guard because I forgot it was starting at like 5:30.
Yeah, me too. Like I run out to, I'm used to pay-per-view starting at 8. So I'm kind of like, all right, poking around, get myself some dinner. And I'm like, oh shit, it's 20 to 7. It's starting in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And I usually don't watch the pre-show stuff all that much. I think the only pre-show stuff I really ever watched was when you and I went to 30 or 31 or whichever one we went to.
When we were actually live watching.
Well, we were actually live and we didn't have much of a choice because we were sitting in the stadium.
And it was like an IC title match.
Yeah, it was Miz
Miz and Barrett?
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, so I don't really watch much of the pre-show stuff, but I guess the IC title match was on the pre-show.
It's the first match
as well, which kind of, so I missed that. So I had, up until Monday night, I didn't know Dean still had the IC title.
And I mean, what did they had 3 matches in the pre-show.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were title match, right? The Cruiserweight title, the IC match.
And that's right. The Battle Royal.
And the Battle Royal, right? So it was...
Right, because originally it was supposed to be the Cruiserweight, the Women's SmackDown title, and then they moved that to the awkward position of after a fantastic match and before Undertaker, which is always, pun intended, the dead zone.
They did that last time, too. I think they put a women's match right there. And I mean, not that they were bad women's matches. It was just weird positioning.
Yeah, and they gave them 6 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was odd, and especially for a match where you had like 9 people in it or whatever they had. It was like everybody came in, hit a move, and
everyone punch everybody once, do your finish, and then we're gonna give the title to this person. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, and the other thing was that show ran ridiculously long, even with the pre-show shit starting at like 5:30 or whatever. I'm like, it's like 20 to 11, and I'm going like, we still have 4 matches left. It ended at like 10 after midnight. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta go to fucking work in the morning. Yep.
And then with all that aftermatch stuff too, there was 5 minutes of Undertaker, the farewell Undertaker stuff. 10. I mean, just him taking his gloves off. It was, and I'm like, I didn't need this right before I went to bed. This is,
I'm gonna be awake till 2:00 in the morning now because I'm upset.
Right, yeah, right. I'm crying. Shut up. I hate you all.
What I will say about me messing up with the, forgetting about the pre-show and so many matches being on the pre-show, I have the network on my phone, so I was able to put it on my phone. And like watch it I wasn't driving, but I had it on in the car on the way back from.
Right, and I just kept I think I got kicked off the network like 15 times. It was
wonderful. you were having a rough time, and then there was like the one like what I will say was the most epic moment of the night, which was funny because I'm sitting here and I'm watching it, and it was they were doing like all the introductions for like the teams in the ladder match. And I went upstairs to go throw laundry, and then I forgot the tag match was a ladder match. And like I'm upstairs throwing laundry, and then I go, ladder match, huh? And I come downstairs and I grab my phone, and Mike had text messaged us at that time, kind of the same comment.
Yep.
And I'm like, same brain, all right, cool. Not gonna happen. And then they brought the New Day out, and I'm like, all right, they're gonna put the New Day in the match. And the way they pulled that off was great because like Kofi was taking his jacket off. They took
were stretching. They were
stretching. They took a couple steps to the ring, and then the Hardys music hit. And
biggest pop of the night.
I lost my mind. I'm trying to call Mike. I couldn't remember how to spell his name in my phone. I was so excited. I finally call him. He picks up, and at the same time, in the same voice, we both go, "Oh my God!" You know.
And it was about that time that I got booted again off of the network.
Yeah,
you know.
I had another friend that was actually watching as well. That was back in the day was a big Hardy fan, and he's calling me as I'm trying to call Mike, and I keep hanging up on him. It's like, I don't want to talk to you. I gotta call Mike. So then Mike and I ended up on the phone for that entire match, and then kind of had the same reaction at the end of that match.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure they were promised that was one of the big things for them was, hey, we're going to bring you in, not just as like when they brought the Dudleys back as like a, hey, let's take a nostalgia act, which they even said, when they were getting ready to be done again. And it was just like, okay, so they brought these guys back to make them champions. Before they start putting over any younger talent. I still think they're going to have a decent run with the titles.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is coming from TNA and Ring of Honor with the broken gimmick, they're over. So it's not like it's this tag team they're bringing in that are guys that are kind of washed up and nobody cares about.
Right.
They had kind of reinvented themselves with the broken Hardys. I would still love to see them kind of do that.
What I see happening is as long as they're tag champions now, they're going to still be old school Team Extreme Hardys.
Mm-hmm.
They'll lose the belt and spiral back into broken Hardys. Yeah. They'll get somebody will small package roll them up and like, I can't believe we lost the belts. And then it'll just deteriorate into
Matt will snap.
Yeah. He'll snap and
the funny thing was Monday night when the Hardys came out and they introduced them as the Hardy Boys. I kind of lost my mind. It's like, just call them the Hardys. They're like our age. They ain't boys anymore.
Right.
It's like the Hardys,
boys,
and it's a boys with a Z. It's like,
wait a minute. Hold on a second. They should just call them Team Extreme. That's it. Just, you call
the Hardys is fine. This
is fine. But yeah, they said the Hardy Boys, and I was out in the kitchen and I kind of like did one of these like around the refrigerator. I was like, did they just call them the Hardy Boys? And I was like, all right, back to my chocolate milk.
Well, I guess they could have called them the Harvey Boys.
Oh.
I saw a little bit of the interview stuff, one of the backstage shows or something, where they did mention the Expedition of Gold briefly, just that they and honestly, to give them credit, they were, aside from the little bullshit titles that they won when they were doing that stupid TNA thing, the fake titles that they were going out and winning or whatever Conan's BS promotion is out there. Conan's promotion just killed DJ Z. I don't know if you guys saw any of that.
No.
Oh God.
Yeah, DJ Z took some bump that he ruptured his colon or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
And he was internally bleeding. He's laid up in a hospital bed. Yeah.
That's what X-Pac did when he did the Bronco Buster and he was bleeding out his ass. Ugh. That's awful.
Yeah, he took some bump and he ruptured something internally.
I never wish that on anybody, ever. No.
But I had read it. Somebody had posted something about the Hardy Boys now. Inside of 2 months or 3 months or so, they won they were TNA champions, ROH champions, and WWE champions.
Yeah. Yep.
And if there's any team that deserves it, it's them. I mean, watching a 40-some late 40s Jeff Hardy do a swanton off of a 25-foot ladder.
He's 39. He's not late 40s.
Yeah. I thought they were older.
No.
They started when they were like 16.
That's true.
So that's
true.
that's why you start thinking like, all right, most of these guys by the time they hit that point in the business, they're 30. So so he's got to be pushing 50 now. He's only 39, but
Oh,
he
okay.
was getting ragdolled around Monday Night Raw when he was 16 years old. He lied about his age to compete.
That's true. He is only 39. Holy crap. Well, that makes me feel really old.
Yeah.
Since he's only 4 years older than me. Okay. Well, you knew what I was going for there. Yeah, 39-year-old.
Shut up, you young whippersnapper.
You turned him into Diamond Dallas Page. He got into business.
He got the business at 35. He's now 112 winning titles. But it was still cool to see him get up on that ladder and hit that move off of there. It just looked like it hurt. It was one of those where
that was
in 1999 I would have been like, yeah, do it again. And I was like, oh
that
God,
was another moment though. I'm like, no, don't put the guy that's injury prone on the ladder that you're gonna flop down on. You know, really? Do we need Cesaro out again?
Right.
You know,
which
Cesaro gets hurt all the time. Sheamus already had like his brain was hanging out a hole in his head.
He looked like he got shot by a gun. It was really bad. Oh man.
That's that,
but
that pale Irish skin.
I saw just talking about injuries. I saw Finn Balor's hurt again.
Yeah, concussion for Monday night.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, you're a real big help.
Off to SmackDown with you.
You can send him to NXT for all I care. Actually, don't, because he doesn't deserve it.
Well, he had to go over to SmackDown so he could have the feud with Mojo and Gronk.
Ain't nobody got time for that shit. Gronk threw that foamy head beer all over him, and he was like,
That was another one of those good moments at WrestleMania that was just kind of like not the whole Gronk getting involved in the match, but the security officer like running over, like, no, you can't get in. Like you saw like the ring announcer, you know, or the timekeeper,
everybody's
like,
grabbing her,
like, no, it's okay.
Yeah, this is part of the show. Part of the show.
Somebody didn't let Susan know it was a work. It was
yeah.
And she wants to prove that she's just as tough as all the guys.
I'm trying to think of what the cruiserweight match between Neville, who I'm loving right now with this.
Yeah, I'm loving the evil Neville.
Yeah.
And now he's got
it's the most personality Neville showed.
TK Perkins is like his little disciple now.
Mm-hmm. Which was weird because I wasn't expecting that to happen. I was like, oh, TJ Perkins, he's the goody good who dabs when he comes out.
I really thought that I was surprised too, because I really thought he was set up to be like the guy that's there for the kids.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're still feeling out what they want to do with the cruiserweights. And I think they had an idea for TJ Perkins. And I saw the irony of it, or the maybe the little inside joke that TJ Perkins was the video game guy, and he used to be Suicide, who was the video game guy. It was a little
exactly.
But I
if he was I almost think Suicide in TNA now, because Suicide came back to TNA.
Suicide always comes back.
I know.
I was reading who it was. It's some guy who I don't know who he is.
Yeah. I'm still not convinced it was Daniels in the costume when we saw him.
Well, I have a Suicide autograph. I have no idea.
We have a Suicide autograph. We have no idea who's in the costume.
And he wouldn't say the guy who was in the costume wouldn't break.
Wouldn't break.
So it was either Kazarian or Daniels.
It had to be Kaz because Daniels was at the same show signing as
that was a different show, I think. I think it was a different show.
He was signing that show. He was signing as Daniels and Mighty Curry Man.
Well, yeah, he did half the show as Daniels, and then he came back out as Mighty Curry Man.
Did he? Oh Jesus! Oh man, I forgot.
He put the mask on, and he put a big Band-Aid. He's got that tattoo on his neck, and he was wearing a tank top. So he put a big Band-Aid over the tattoo.
Yeah.
When he was Curryman to keep up kayfabe. Which means I think made it more fun.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even think we got on the side or anything. I think we just liked talking to him because we had talked to him earlier, and then we came back over and had like another like conversation with him when he was Curry Man.
And he
Oh,
was
man.
he was talking to us in the Curry Man voice too.
Yeah,
It was
Oh.
fantastic. You know.
Jesus. That's
And like he knew that we knew, but we were just having fun with it.
right. So that's when you know you got a good guy there. Is when he knows that you know, but he's still playing along anyway.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
He's like, oh.
It's like these
But-
guys get it.
They get it. They get it. True fans. But yeah, I really enjoyed Austin Aries and Neville. I thought it was good. Then it was the Intercontinental match, which personally, to me, I feel like Ambrose. I'm over him. I guess I don't care anymore, and I would have been much happier had Corbin won, because then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, now we have that. At least he can talk
I think they need to tweak the Ambrose character just a little bit.
heel, make him heel.
Yeah, make him heel. But they're not. They won't for a while because it just came out in the past day or so that he and Renee Young tied the knot. I guess over. the
Yeah, I
weekend.
saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, like it just because the character just comes across as kind of this slacker, lazy dude.
And it's almost it's that I don't care character that he's doing, but
Right.
it's translated into, well, if you don't care, I don't care either.
Yeah,
Right.
At least in my opinion, like I'm not.
You know, I'm kind of
Except for when he came out on Raw and he played dumb and thought that the Miz and Maurice were actually Cena and Bella. I was actually chuckling pretty hard. I was like, he was playing into it, and then he was like, "Oh, well, then I'm gonna hit you with the DDT," and I was like,
I
"Oh,
have
man."
to say, like I've always kind of liked the Miz. Like there's a lot of guys that just can't stand the Miz, and I respect him for coming, from where he did as this, MTV reality guy. And his character is fantastic. I mean, he's that guy that the fans hate and want to see him get his ass kicked every week.
Right.
But his John Cena impersonation has taken my Miz fandom to a whole nother level.
Rule number
Yeah.
4.
I mean, he's got the mannerisms down,
He does.
as does,
Maurice.
Maurice with the Bella, whichever Bella John Cena
And Nikki.
has whatever Bella suckered John Cena into marrying her.
Surprise! He doesn't want kids. Sorry, Nikki.
That was like another thing. Like this show ran till 10 after midnight. And it was like, did we really need the 20-minute John Cena Nikki Bella proposal?
Well, yeah,
No.
that was the main event. Didn't you know that?
No.
Match made in heaven, dude. Match made in heaven.
No.
You
They didn't even give Randy Savage and Elizabeth that kind of time.
They didn't. They didn't.
Elizabeth. That's I remember being a kid just when it. And I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna-"
And just crying and oh my God, yeah. Everybody's so happy,
But now, consider this. John Cena marries Nikki Bella. Daniel Bryan is married to Brie Bella.
Their brother-in-laws.
The Bella family now might be the greatest family in the history of wrestling.
If they all,
Women's titles, a combined almost 20 heavyweight world championships.
but there's only 4 of them right now.
Well,
It's not
still,
like-
hey,
It's not like the Anoa'i family where there's like 37 members.
but I think they
I
have
don't know,
like more title reigns than the
Flair has
Anoa'i.
what, 16 titles? Charlotte's got 37 women's championships by now.
At least 5.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking about. Charlotte and Rick are the greatest, like, multi-generational combat. Like, like if you look at most father-son combinations, one has always outshadowed the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Rock did better than his dad.
Yeah, Randy Orton did better than
Orton
Cowboy
better than his
Bob.
dad.
Yeah. David Flair never did anything, close to his father. David San Martino never caught on.
Mhm.
Eric Watts,
that was bad.
Greg Gagne,
Techno Team 2000. There you go. There you go, Eric Watts. Fuck you.
But Eric Watts was U.S. champion.
Right.
There was a while that the U.S. champion belt became the belt that the Booker put on his kid.
Yeah.
Well, Dusty.
Eric Watts, Dustin, and David Flair were all.
Was Kendall Windham ever?
Kendall Windham was a horseman.
Oh, of course
Briefly.
he was. Who wasn't at that point in time?
Yes,
though?
that was Paul Roma.
Ooh.
Still
Yeah,
the worst horseman though. Mongo.
Oh, I don't know.
Mongo
how
was
Steve-
United States champion too.
Mongo was United States champion.
He's also an Eskimo bro with Steve Austin. But I feel like there's a lot of people that did Deborah.
The whole wrestling business. It's the wrestling business. A lot of those guys are Eskimo brothers. There's
yes, they are.
Hell, I think Mike and I may have done Deborah.
Nice.
well, there's some of them shows that were back in the old days.
So
And this is kind of still staying on the WrestleMania thing. For me, most anticlimactic match of the night was the Wyatt Orton match.
didn't expect that to happen.
Because that match, it was I had my attention with Braid, the mind games, and the fucking maggots and the worms and shit. And
Oh,
being
that was
protected on the
cool.
ring. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fucking cool as hell. And then all of a sudden, the match is over. Randy Orton is champion.
And you're like,
What?
what?
You know,
What?
yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, creative.
I didn't understand
You
that
see-
at all.
Somebody did a meme where they took that project the picture on the mat thing, and they put the three-way sex tape up there.
Nice.
That's amazing.
And it looked like it was one of those things I'm flipping through, and I'm like, why am I? I'm like, jeez.
They got me. You're like,
That's still the most TV time Brad Maddox has ever gotten.
except for when he got tombstone on Jimmy Fallon by the Undertaker,
True.
when he was dressed like a turkey.
Yes.
Was that Jimmy Fallon? I don't know.
No,
it was
it
Jimmy
was
Kimmel.
Kimmel. It
It
was
was Kimmel.
Yeah, one of the late night shows. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. But yeah, so after the pre-show.
Oh, they don't call him
um,
Beef Wellington for nothing.
well, then we had the
ladies and
Andre.
gentlemen, he did wrestle under the name Beef Wellington.
That's awful.
I can't make this shit up, man.
No, you can't. You cannot make that shit up. But then you had the
He can't be
Andre.
that bad a guy because a friend that shares is a friend that cares.
Word.
I can't.
That-
There's no arguments there. But I was a bit surprised at the Andre Battle Royal.
I thought they were gonna, with all the kind of big thing being made about show, the kind of his contract runs out.
Next,
You know, the
it's before WrestleMania next year. because
Yeah,
he
it's
said-
like February
he
of
said
next year. This was his
Yeah.
last one. I
yeah,
kind of thought maybe they were gonna give it to show.
yeah. But he
And then
also
it was
did.
like, Hey and Strowman went out early, and I'm like, all right, well, they're gonna give it to this guy. Okay, no, they're not gonna give it to. And then
Right.
them giving it to Mojo was kind of like,
Mm,
I felt a Mojo push coming, so I wasn't completely surprised. And to me, when I say again, this is another me laying somebody over the other guy. Mojo to me, and I think this is the way Vince sees him, is Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
okay.
yeah.
I think you have a high energy guy there that can be a fan favorite, that's got good size, that has a football background, that
Mhm.
can get the crowd to rally behind him. And this, have him win this feud, put him up against the heel foreigner. It's a nice build for what Vince likes, that all-American athlete.
Yeah.
That's the
That's true.
It's in that wheelhouse. And,
I like that.
I think it was like a time is right type of thing to do it with him. You know, pull the card now on him, and let's see where he can go. I was gonna say, what's the mid right now? It's Kevin Owens is over there with the U.S. title.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe they get, you know, I don't know if they're gonna do a Kevin Owens Mojo feud, or maybe if Owens drops the belt to somebody else and gets involved in the title picture.
That was one of the moves of the shakeup that I was most disappointed about. I was most disappointed about Owens going over to SmackDown.
I wasn't expecting it. To me, I was like,
"There's no way." To me, I kind of felt like they were going to end up building, you know, to Owens Lesnar, which we'd been kind of hearing rumblings about at some point.
That can that can still happen. Owens can win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
I know. Because it seems to me the understanding that I have is that they're going to push Brock until WrestleMania 34 as the champ.
Yeah,
for Raw. Like nobody's going to touch him. Probably because he won't be around. But when he does go to SummerSlam, you know, he's going to face someone and he's going to win. You know, and he's just gonna again get that unstoppable, and then they're gonna put Roman Reigns up against him, and they're gonna make him the new John Cena when nobody can get out of that spear.
I don't.
Again, and to be devil's advocate a little bit,
he's better than he was when he first went solo.
You know what? I'm not even going to talk about Roman Reigns' work. I think there's still potential there. I think one day. I think it all could fall into place, and I'm not going to blame him. And I honestly am going to look at it from that, when you look at it from that business point of view, if now you're losing Cena as like your marquee guy, your face of the company, who do they have that they could send to? And I read this someplace, and I completely agreed with it. And I started thinking about it. I was like, who do they have to send to Good Morning America? Who do they have to send to be on Kelly Ripa? Who do they have to send to be on one of the late night talk shows? There's guys with good personalities,
which is why
there's guys that could come in and be funny.
Yeah,
but they also want that to be the look of the company. As great as Kevin Owens is and is witty, when he shows up, people are going to be like, "You just look like some guy."
Which is why I was surprised that Roman didn't get sent to SmackDown. Right. Because you could have Rollins on Raw, who can be the face of Raw, and then you have Reigns on SmackDown, be the kind of filling that John Cena role, and they're all on the same show. That's what I mean, kind of thinking about like how the roster's shaped out last night. Like, okay. So who's the top babyface on SmackDown? Sammy?
I think it's going to be AJ Styles.
Yeah, maybe AJ.
I think it's been a slow face turn back for AJ Styles because he got cheered on SmackDown last night and didn't necessarily react negatively.
Well, and they put a hell of a match on last night too. The three of them. I was surprised how good it was with Corbin and him and Sammy. That was who it was, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because they were setting up to see who faces Kevin Owens for the United States Championship. And I could totally see AJ taking that and owning it for 6 months. And but yeah, that was a surprise. I had band practice last night, so by the time I got home, it was already 9:30. So I started over, and when his music hit first, I went, "Holy shit!" Like I purposely didn't go on Facebook or anything because I didn't want a lot of the guys in the DDP Yoga wrestling fans thing. They mark out when stuff like that happens, and I'm like, "That's great." An hour and a half behind you.
I'm behind you.
I'm not there, and I kind of want to know. Can we talk about something that I absolutely loved with Roman Reigns? they just made Strowman the strongest.
I was gonna bring that. I
babyface
was gonna bring
ever.
that up.
Even if it was
Strowman
unintentional, that
The Strowman beatdown on Reigns on Monday night was 15 minutes of epic television.
yeah, and I was not expecting. I don't care how they rigged it up. The ambulance. I don't care if they had a crane. I don't care what it was. He was still going all in, and it turned and it just rolled. And I was like, fuck. Even if there's a crane or I don't know, a pallet jack or I don't care. He just fucking flipped
looked
up.
like a beast. I mean, there were, of course, those couple of spots that I did bitch about. When they came back to get, after Strowman pushed the stretcher off the loading dock, when they came back to him, the stretcher was facing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Also the fact that Strowman did that to him and then had him in an ambulance and tipped the ambulance over, and he may have some broken ribs and a separated shoulder.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
Roman Reigns is fucking dead. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, I'm going like, dude, you owned the yard for a week.
Right.
My favorite part of the segment was the crowd.
Yeah. Thank you, Strowman, and you deserve it.
and when Strowman came back and he's like, "I'm not done with you yet," and the crowd went, "Ah!"
And then there was like
Steve Austin hitting Vince McMahon in the head with
the med pad.
And he just kept hitting them.
The only thing that would have made that, I think, even more epic, at least for me, was after he's tipped over the ambulance and they load him into the fucking back of the van. If
He's the driver
behind the van and just take off with him, I'm like, that would have been brilliant.
I wanted him to be like the Undertaker, like when the Undertaker was driving.
Where do you want to go?
And then they just cut to like Braun Strowman jumping out of the ambulance and like stock footage of it going off a cliff.
Yeah.
But it's okay because Roman would be back next Tuesday anyway.
He would be.
He'd no sell it. He had a van blowing up.
The other moment of that whole beatdown that just blew me away was the one thing they kept showing over and over and over again was the fucking toss.
Where he threw him over the table?
When he threw him over the table and he landed in the other table. I'm like,
I don't think that was supposed to happen.
This dude is like, that's the thing. Strowman is over now.
Yeah. And I had started to like him when they pushed him solo and he started doing this, Foley, you get me someone who's competitive or I'm just going to destroy everyone. And I was like, okay, they're going to start pushing him. And he started talking and I'm like, all right, he's starting to come together. He's not as green. He's
finding his way. And this is like another thing. Like I kind of, there was a stretch where I wasn't really watching as much. Like I was watching the pay-per-views, but I wasn't watching the weekly shows.
Right.
Has he gotten in better shape?
Yes.
Okay. Like Monday night I saw him and I'm like, my God, he's in good shape.
Yeah, I think they told him his belly was starting to get a little big and he got even more jacked than he was before.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's solid now. He's not like,
Big Show was.
Yeah.
Even when Big Show was young.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right. Nothing against him. But even when he was 22 years old in WCW, he was not nearly as jacked as what he was. Also, just a side note on this one. When I was watching that, the first thing, as soon as it was over, like ambulance tipped over and everything, and then the ambulance, he put the other one and he's taken away. And they go to a commercial break, and I just muted the TV and I went, what the fuck did I just watch? And I was like, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Nails running out of the crowd and destroying the Big Boss Man back in 92, only worse. Like when he beat the shit out of him. And then it was like,
the other thing that they did with that I loved was they kept going back and showing the replay, as I said, of that moment of him just like tossing him. He tossed him 10 feet. I mean, that was like he like shot put at him.
If you watch that, his Roman's face is like, oh shit.
He's
like I'm going for a run.
not only that, but they like kept it where there was no commentary because Cole was in the back interviewing him. So, and like, you know, Graves and Saxton weren't talking over what happened,
They were
which
just
I thought
silent.
was done well,
Yeah.
you know.
But that man, they just solidified Strowman as a fan favorite, whether they want him to be a fan favorite or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing, you know, if you look at the history of some of the stuff, and like when the Kurt Angle face turn didn't, or the Kurt Angle initial face run didn't work out, and the fans started the "You suck" chant
Right.
with his
It
music. You know, and then it eventually became the thing. And the John Cena sucks sing along.
Right. And the Die
you know,
Rocky Die.
Die Rocky Die. But I don't know how they can positively spin a full crowd going, "Fuck you, Roman."
Yeah. You know, and just, yeah, I don't know how they, I don't know.
He has. I mean, when he's out now, the crowd turns into an old school ECW crowd.
Yep.
You know, there's organized chants and there's watching it and then watching the way the crowd reacted to that piece. I'm like, you have to almost turn him. I would do an angle where Roman Reigns is. I know they want to keep him face, but it makes sense now to do an angle where he's recovering and they talk to him about like, you know, the crowd seemed to be happy that you got, you know, and then he just like turns on the crowd and just, you know, and I think if he did that, he would start to win more people over.
Well, that and like that was the thing. That's kind of what I thought they were going to do a little bit last week when
they did.
You know, he's been working this kind of the that I'm the guy bit where he's like, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad, like that I don't care thing. But again, it's like the I don't care thing doesn't work with the. You have to have just be like, if he comes out and starts telling some of these people how much he doesn't like them, then they're going to start liking him. You know, he's going to be like, you're the prick we wanted you to be.
Yeah, but I mean, coming in last Monday from the night before, where he retired, probably one of the most beloved superstars in history, which personally, I don't think he deserved that honor, but it's Taker. Taker probably had some say in it.
And it was the only way to go, unless, you know, they could have had Cena do it, and you would have been like, okay, but Cena's kind of on his way, you know, to a limited run anyway.
Yeah.
So it helps.
It helps Roman. But that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so you have him retire, you know, as I said, retire one of the probably the most beloved superstar in history. And then you have him come out the following night to 10 minutes of booze, 15 minutes of booze, and then just come out and be like, you know, not say a word and then just grab the mic and go, it's my yard now, drop it and walk out. Instant heel. Right. I mean, he had that heel Sunday night for beating The Undertaker.
Right.
But then to try to like kind of come back this week and try to make him like sympathetic again and like the fans love him. And then, you know, just giving that beatdown by Strowman. I mean, there's
you're at a turning point now. You're at that point where you either need to go, we're going to turn him here temporarily until we can find a way to get him over and not like
it's gotta
ironic.
Happen. He is one of those guys like The Rock, like John Cena. You know, John Cena in the beginning
when he was basic thugonomics. It's gotta happen. Like turn him heel, leave him heel, let the face turn happen organically. Yeah.
Don't force it on him, because I just like the cocky character he's at right now, that he has right now, isn't, you know, it's more designed for a heel.
You
know, I mean, Rock, you know, The Rock was that character. And I mean, The Rock continued to play that character after he became The Rock. But the fans eventually, you know, the catchphrases and whatnot eventually came around to, you know, we love this guy.
Right.
You know, same thing with Cena. You know, same thing with Austin.
Yeah.
You know, where Austin not necessarily to that level, but where the fans didn't hate Austin. He just, when he came over into the Federation, he was kind of aimless. He had the ringmaster gimmick, which was atrocious, and then they were gonna kind of Killer McFrost and Chili McFreeze or whatever Vince wanted to call him, and it's like, and that character, that the Stone Cold character happened organically. The Rock character happened organically.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to let that happen with Roman, but Vince is just too old and senile, I guess, to let it happen.
He sees the other dollar signs of it. He knows that the guys like us that want to see him turn heel are still going to spend the money and still going to show up and boo him and do what we do, just like with Cena. How long it's been 10 years that us smart marks have wanted a Cena heel turn, and we ain't got it, and we're never going to get it.
And if we do get it, we're not going to care anymore.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's right now he knows that he's going to sell tickets to us to watch Roman Reigns get put on a stretcher and rolled off a cliff. And he's going to sell tickets to little kids, and he's going to sell T-shirts and action figures and stuffed dolls and posters
but the problem,
hogs and whatever kids buy.
The problem with that attitude, though, is, and that's the key word there, attitude. I'm going back to the Attitude Era. He was still marketing all that shit back then. He was still selling the pogs and the action figures and the T-shirts. And it wasn't just us 18, 19-year-olds at the time. There were the kids. I get it. I'm going to be 41 in a week. I get I'm not his demographic anymore. But eventually those kids that you're selling this merchant, you're selling these multicolored John Cena T-shirts to are going to be angry teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
You need that transition over. You can still have the characters that are going to appeal to the kids. You're still going to have the Sami Zayns and the, whatever, that are kid friendly. I'm not expecting, all the TNA that happened 20 years ago. I'm not ever expecting that again, because that was just
that was crazy then.
that was a time and place kind of thing. I don't see that happening ever again.
No.
But
I can't believe how drunk in public I was at some of those old wrestling shows.
Right?
I have pictures somewhere of me and my brother completely hammered in a parking lot of an ECW show that was down the street from our house. And I think it was a show where we drank in the parking lot before we went in. And the show had an intermission that they let us outside and let us back in. So we went outside and drank some more and then came back in, and we're buying beers the whole time we were inside.
My God.
And then I can remember being at like WWF house shows drunk off by, hollering at Savio Vega. And
nice. Yeah,
I think I saw Savio Vega beat Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Probably.
Was it when he was
he was probably still the ringmaster at the time.
Yeah, I saw him once as the ringmaster live in Hershey.
But going back to, this is something I going back to the Strowman beatdown of Roman.
God. The beauty.
Some moron online.
Wait, I know where this is going, but go ahead.
Has started a petition to have Braun Strowman fired.
Oh, I didn't see that coming. I thought you were going to say that someone photoshopped a picture of like the United Airways like on his back and like, oh, you don't want to leave? We're going to take you out.
Yeah. The one I saw Braun Strowman has been drafted by United Airways.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, somebody has posted a online petition, because everybody's got to
right.
do their online petition thing of that, he should be fired because that's not family friendly. I'm like,
I think it's
fucking wrestling.
but I think it's a work. I think that we're getting to the point now where some of the fans are living kayfabe now a little bit.
Yeah, I guess
that it's not even like they're trolling it online. That it's like we're gonna be part of the show, but we're gonna do it in character. We're gonna play the character of the fan.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that and I'm like, I know it's not a guy that's legitimately concerned and Braun Strowman should be fired for, but that's one of those. I mean, that would have been 30 years ago or whatever. Jack Tunney would have been like,
True.
We're going to consider, they would have cut to that when they used to put Jack Tunney in that office setting.
Yes.
And they'd be like, we're going to consider, our options here, and Mr. Strowman will be,
suspended indefinitely
until he'll be fined, and we're going to have an investigative committee looking at the, he's going to put Tony Gurria on it to decide.
I do, but it's just like, I think what it would just, even if that is the case, and that's what it is I think it's just this day and age where everybody's just got to have a fucking petition for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suck it up, Cupcake. Roman Reigns got his ass beat on Monday night.
But I think you're looking into you're marking on it a little too much. It's a work. I think it
probably is, but there is that tiny part of me that just knows that there are stupid fucking people out there that don't understand.
This is why I like it that somebody took it to that extreme, because they escalated it to the Roman Reigns flipped over or Braun Strowman flipped over in an ambulance. That somebody took it to the this is too
I get it. I mean, it probably is bullshit, but it's just like,
because that's always. Yeah, for years it's been like, that's how I figured out wrestling was fake when I was a kid. Because
it's just,
Terry Funk used to brand men
every time. Everybody's got their fucking petitions out there.
Yeah.
But
I think that there's a petition for everything. So somebody put out a petition to get a wrestler fired for something that was so obviously fake. It's a.
You mean he didn't really flip that ambulance over on his own?
The worst part of that, the part that I got the douche chills with that bit was at one point he had to reposition himself.
Yes.
And the ambulance didn't move.
Yeah.
He has one hand on it. Like he's yanking up his pants with one hand, and he's got he's 3-finger in the ambulance.
Well, here's what needs to happen from here. Personally, he needs to be off TV. What? I know it won't I know it won't.
He'll be back Monday night and he won't even have a Band-Aid.
No, he won't. In fact, he'll be stronger. He'll say that he absorbed all the energy he's a mutant and he absorbed all the energy that was
the kinetic energy of
the ambulance, and
his vest is not going to be made out of ambulance material.
Well, that's what protected him from the ambulance and being thrown off the loading dock was the flak jacket.
Right, because that helped D'Lo Brown when he did his frog splash, and
I loved D'Lo with the fucking.
Did you hear that? The brother said this. Oh my god! I watched that DX segment from forever ago when they made fun of the Nation, and I was like, this can never happen again.
Are you shaking? What the Rock is baking?
Road Dogg dressed up as Mark Henry.
Oh, he was
Mizar.
Road Dogg.
And
Road Dogg was D'Lo. Because it was X-Pac.
It was X-Pac.
Oh, it was yeah.
And he had blackface, and I was like,
yeah.
They all did.
The entire group did.
They were in blackface.
But I just loved it.
The little skinny dude that did that great Owen Hart.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. It was fantastic.
And he had that little fake nose on that would have, turned on Jensen.
I haven't. I had not watched that since it probably happened, and I don't know what it was, but I was like, I need to go back and watch that. And when I saw Road Dogg being D'Lo, and he's like, "Did you hear what the brother did?" And he'd go up to the top rope and he'd go like this. I was dying.
And wasn't Gunn the Godfather?
I think
Yeah, I think
so.
he had to be. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think.
But
No,
X-Pac dresses Mark Henry.
He was Kama Mustafa because he wasn't the Godfather.
That's right. He
yet.
wasn't the God. Well, yeah, he wasn't the Godfather.
Yeah, but yeah. So, but anyway, so here's what I want to happen. I want him to be off TV for at least 2 weeks. It should be longer than that, but 2 weeks. When he comes back, he needs new ring gear and he needs a new theme song. It's not going to fucking happen, but that's what he needs.
We've been saying new ring gear and new theme song for 2 fucking years now.
We have. Look,
And the thing is, like, if you've seen pictures of him in TNA, not TNA, NXT,
yeah.
like pre-Shield NXT, and him just like in trunks, he looks goddamn massive.
Right. He looks like Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm surprised they're trying to tie that shit in. He'll come back dressed as Aquaman. That's it.
Aquaman. He might come back dressed as Aquaman.
Jason Momoa. I met Jason Momoa, and he is as like close to a caveman as like anybody walking the earth right now. Like they really should check his DNA. Like there's some Cro-Magnon in there, like heavy. I was hanging out at a bar with, not that I was hanging out with Jason Momoa, but he was there. And this girl walked up to him and was like, "Oh, I wish you would just, throw me over your shoulder and carry me up to a hotel room. We're staying in this hotel." So he slung her over his shoulder and ran out of the bar with her like a goddamn King Kong.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it just I don't know. There's so much that should happen but just doesn't, and
I guess we're going to see how it all falls out. We're going to get some new storylines now. We're going to get some different things. They're going to reposition some guys. I'm interested to see where it's going to go. I feel like, we were worried about some of this like stagnant stuff, like a Randy Orton championship and a Brock Lesnar disappearing with the title for a few months. It would be nice. I don't know what Brock's appearance rate is now, but like if Brock does have, he's like, come on and beat somebody in a title match that's like a squash.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have something where somebody wins a title match that it's not necessarily going to hurt their career to get, to get their ass kicked. But it seems like they haven't cared about that because they've had things to put, they had Roman Reigns beat up fucking the tag team champions by himself at one point. So it's like,
right now I just feel like they should have like Brock show up every week and just F5 James Ellsworth for like 2 hours.
That's the title match I want at one of the pay-per-view. I want James Ellsworth to win a battle royal or something like that by accident, and then he gets a title shot against Brock Lesnar at a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Oh man, it'd be great to watch him launch him in suplex.
Suplex him, like German suplex him onto the floor, like out of the ring over the rope onto the floor. Like I don't know if you ever heard on any of the Cornette interviews or some of the other guys when they talk about the Mulkey brothers from back in the 80s that just took these hellacious bumps.
Yeah.
Yes. Guys would go like land on their fucking face outside.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think what. So we have a lot of change going on with the two rosters. Some good, some bad.
I feel like SmackDown got shafted on this.
Oh, are you surprised?
No, I'm not. I mean, and SmackDown has been the better show, hands down.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's because it's only 2 hours, and I think they can do more wrestling, less talking on that show.
Yeah.
Raw, they have to more talky, less wrestle. more commercials.
You know, if you look at it from just a wrestling standpoint, they have AJ Styles, they have Sami Zayn, they have Kevin Owens there now. You know, you got some real quality Shinsuke Nakamura. You have real quality wrestlers. So
Can we talk real quick about that? I look forward to Ziggler and Nakamura.
oh yeah.
People are like, oh, Dolph Ziggler is on his way out. Like, he might be, but he's still one of the best guys in the ring that can make you look amazing without you having to try. And to watch him and Nakamura go at it, I can only imagine he won't land for 4 days after the Kinshasa. He'll just fly out of the arena.
I feel like they completely dropped the fucking ball with the Ziggler heel turn.
They did. Again, if you turn heel, don't keep the same song.
I don't even care if it's the same song because he had the same song when he was heel the first run. That was his song.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
You know, but you know, it's. I just feel like they just, you know, here he had this great heel turn. Part of it was they had him turn heel against Apollo Crews.
Who?
Oh,
that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, the first draft pick for Raw, the first switch over for Raw or whatever.
Right. Which makes zero sense.
Don't care about Apollo Crews. Talented guy.
Underutilized.
Yeah, they just haven't done anything to
They
build
haven't
them.
done anything with him, and I don't think he was ready to be on the main roster yet.
Yeah, I felt they moved them up too soon.
You know, where there were guys that could have, like, you know, deserved to be called up that weren't at the time. You know, but you know, and like kind of one of the surprise, I guess one of the surprise things for me across all the brands is that Asuka is still in NXT.
I was waiting for her to come out last night, and then I was like, wait, she's still champion. She can't just. I mean, she could in theory.
You know, I mean, I think she could. I mean, I'm sure she's going to drop the title to Ember Moon or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Yeah,
I am too. But I mean, like, I would love to see Asuka.
Yeah,
you know, on Raw or on SmackDown.
I thought that was the whole idea because they signed her from Japan or wherever she's from, and it was like a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, she's had this epic run with that title,
right?
Which they had to change.
Well, they changed all of them.
I know, but they had to really change that one.
Yeah, they did.
What am I missing?
You didn't see the pictures of Paige with the title?
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, things happen. I was talking to a buddy about that, and I'm like, you don't think that the Intercontinental title had some things done to it when Rick Rude had it, or when
Oh, there have been lines of coke snorted off of titles. I get that, you know. But
actually, well, that made me think. They're used to one of my all-time favorite Shane Douglas promos when he was with Francine and he was ECW champion. Was Francine was wearing some like thing with, you know, she had all kinds of belly showing, all kinds of midriff, and he goes, "If you look right here, you could almost see a reverse imprint of the ECW heavyweight title from where it was knocking up."
See, now that was great when he did stuff like that, but now he's
a greater at Target.
Yeah, he is. But I'm trying to think here of something. The way to finish this up. We've done WrestleMania. We've talked about it. We talked a little bit about the.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
The JBL, I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about JBL Mauro Ranallo. Mauro is still under contract till August, but is refusing to be on TV. And he's just going to wait out his contract, and then he's going to go back to boxing. He removed all WWE from his Twitter. Yep. So he is done, and that's a damn shame because when he showed up, he was that Jim Ross WrestleMania 9 was terrible, but at least you knew that you were going to have the moves called right.
Yeah, and that was the first time I heard him. I'm like, this is great. He's calling moves.
Right.
He's calling moves like not like Tony Schiavone used to call moves. He's calling moves correctly, or he's calling, Joey
Right.
Styles, Jim
Right.
Ross calling moves.
Enthusiasm and smart. He knows it. He knew his shit.
Yeah,
And-
it led a credibility to it, Gordon Soley, type of.
There you go. That's a great comparison there. Gordon Soley, he was around wrestling for 125 years, but he was always that guy you could go, oh, there's a shining wizard, and Schiavone would look at him and go, oh, what? We're like, that's when you know what? We'll talk afterwards in the locker room. Like, but it was
hit him with the suplex.
yeah, the oh, sweet Lord, Schiavone. But
Oh no,
I
Gordon
really-
Soley used to call it the suplex.
well,
And
That's-
and technically, that's what it was supposed to be called. I think it was. When it was
I don't know.
it was
I mean,
originally
it would make sense if you're French, but the
Yeah,
French
I
are
think
dumb.
that was-
So
yes.
whatever. Anyway, but like I really always enjoyed SmackDown because I was like, all right, now we have this good commentator, and he was doing the cruiserweight
He
too.
did the cruiserweight. Oh, he made the cruiserweight classic for me.
Right.
He really.
Exactly. Did he do any of the UK stuff, or that was Nigel McGuinness that they brought in for that? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But it just, to me, I was like, man, this guy is, Jim Ross and, all those good commentators all over again. He wasn't
Which was
ridiculous.
something that had been missing. He wasn't trying to do the
Right.
Michael Cole heel thing, or
Right. Or the Josh Matthews douchebag thing.
He wasn't making it about him, which is,
Right.
but making it interesting. You enjoyed
Right.
it because of him, but it
Right.
wasn't him making it about him.
Yeah.
Right. And then the whole issue happened where Ronaldo won the Observer magazine, I guess if it's still a magazine, commentator of the year, and he said something on Twitter, and JBL immediately was like, shut the fuck up. Like, oh, okay. And it had been known that Ronaldo had suffered from bipolar and that he was big on, like trying to help people with that, and that it's okay to have, depression and stuff like that.
And there was another incident as well
Right.
with the snowstorm,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
and
that's,
fucking Taz got involved in that.
somehow I think Taz just is trying to, I mean, I know he has that podcast that's pretty good. It's actually pretty good if you've ever listened to it.
Yeah,
It's not great, but it's not the Ross Report.
I used to listen to in the New York area. Taz had a radio show at night for a while.
Dear God.
That was actually really enjoyable. It's just, and it wasn't all just wrestling. He talked about other things. I mean, it was like primarily wrestling, but it was like the Taz radio show.
Man. But yeah, something weird happened there, and then they did the setup thing where JBL was on the show and was screaming at him, and it was all scripted to happen that way, and it just kind of got out of hand. We're finding out that obviously we had heard of issues before where he, straight potatoed Blue Meanie and almost broke his nose, that he tended to bully the young guys when they came up.
Oh no, he busted Blue Meanie's eye open. He busted.
Oh, is that what he did?
Yeah,
Yeah. Meanie got stitches. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know it was during some sort of like scuffle at the end of an episode of Raw or was it the ECW?
It was the ECW one night stand.
One night stand. And everyone was in the ring, and Bradshaw, when they were in the middle of the pile, sucker punched him. And, was that the night that Joey Styles, knocked him out? Because Joey Styles apparently knocked Bradshaw
That was
out.
a different night. But the following Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or whatever it was, they let the BWO show up, and they
JBL.
they beat JBL in the head with a chair.
Yeah, as they should have. But, these more and more stories are coming out about how he's saying, I'm old school. That's how things are done. And it's like, well, here's the problem. You can say what you want to say about locker talk or locker room behavior, but there's no room in this day and age to push people to the point where they don't want to do what they love to do. And I said it to you guys earlier in a text was, Vince McMahon is an enabler. He finds that shit funny
Oh yeah.
because he's a 70-year-old man that finds fart jokes funny. Guys having their pants pulled down on TV, and oh, you did something and you didn't like this. Well, it's okay to beat you with soap in a sock. And it's like, no, that's not okay in 2017. I'm sorry, that is not okay.
No.
And I heard a story from Johnny Mundo where he said, I was supposed to steal Justin Roberts' passport while they were in, Europe somewhere. And he's like, me and the other dude, what was the other dude's name? Eminem. The guy that was one of the Stooges.
Mercury.
Mercury. So Bradshaw apparently told Mercury and Johnny Nitro, hey, do me a favor and go steal his passport so he can't get out of the country. Because, that's fucking hilarious, to have a guy stranded in a country that he, can't get out because you have his legal documents. They refused to do it, but somehow it still disappeared. And he had to go to London to hit the embassy to get a new passport to fly to the United States, then to drive like 16 hours to the next show. And it's like, ha, that's hilarious. No, it's not.
No,
it's
not.
That's not funny. Like, it'd be funny if you took it and then at the airport you're like, here you go, man. Like, here you go. That's funny. You were panicked. Not like, I'm so disappointed, I think, that you're like 12 years old, man. Grow the fuck up. That's me.
It's a I look at this from the 2 points of view, and that old school thing, and if you read some of the old books and some of the old stories, like the first thing they did to Hulk Hogan was break his leg.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah. And that was and back then they had to they protected the business, a lot of different ways.
Right.
And when you have, like a business of tough guys like this, you get this machismo, alpha male, it's a combination of a bunch of different things. And especially with the guys that come from the world of football, like Bradshaw did, and being a top guy, he was a Texas football star, like his whole life. So that puts you, that puts you at that I can get away with anything, that boys will be boys type of stuff. And, with, you mentioned before about Ron Simmons putting up with him the whole time. Ron Simmons came out of football too. And the things that football used to do, the abuse that even at a high school level, that would go on. And I remember, in high school, there were things that were funny pranks and pretty mean, cruel stuff, scaring guys. I remember they used to, the guy the senior who was like the biggest, meanest, strongest guy on the team, they'd find some freshman and they'd be like, oh, you see Dave over there? He's if you talk to him, you get to know him. And they're like, no, man, no, he seems pretty scary. Yeah. Well, you know what he likes talking about? His sister is a really good dancer. So go, if you get a chance, bring that up. He'd be like, hey, I heard your sister's a really good dancer. So this kid would go over and be like, hey, I heard the guys were telling me, I heard your sister's a really good dancer. And the guy who was in on it would look at him and go, my sister doesn't have any legs.
Yeah.
So now this guy's shitting himself for a week because he just,
But that's different. You never.
But physically... hold on. I love that story so much that I had to fit that in. But then I can remember going to football camps with other schools and other things that I remember, like guys talking to, like, oh yeah, and then we we held this dude down and we pulled his pants down and we shoved a Twinkie up his ass. We spread his butt cheeks and smashed a Twinkie. And I'm like, okay. But those things happened. And in my business, you know, in the construction world, it's one of those still last bastions of old. Like when I got in, I worked with dudes that are right out of like the movies, you know, chomping on a cigar, calling you a motherfucker, kicking you, I knew dudes who would, that if you, you know, that gave you all kinds of shit. I knew dudes that if you fucked with them, they would have just punched you, you know, they would have just knocked you out. You know, I knew dudes that the cops came to arrest them for not paying child support. And he looked and said, "You're going to need more cops," and closed the door on the police until they brought more police to drag him out of his house. So JBL kind of falls into that layover of being old from the business. And he's a bit of a dinosaur. And Vince has been in that business his whole life, and he's still a dinosaur from it. That this is what they did. They beat each other up. They did things. Now, here's a perfect example of, and this is kind of Vince on his, being both sides of it, I guess. Vince would always mess around with people. He would, wrestle with Kurt Angle all the time. He would always, get physical with the guys. And a couple of years ago when Titus O'Neil put his hands on Vince on television, which is why Vince got so pissed about it, because it messed up the character. It messed up the personality of it. Titus O'Neil came from that football world. And that's that. Put your hands on a guy, you do things, you rough each other up. And part of the mentality of it is we're in a tough business, and you have to be tough both physically and mentally to get through this. And, Ronaldo's, whatever he's dealing with mental health wise, those guys don't even perceive that. It's just you either overcome it or you don't. So it kind of, it's not that they're necessarily being cruel, but they're kind of colorblind to it. In a way.
I get it. But I have 3 words to interject into that, and it's called be a star.
Well,
yeah,
you can't sit here and I mean, I get they're that old school, wrestling hazing kind of thing, but you cannot have an anti-bullying program and then allow this shit to happen, especially to someone that deals with, and let's be honest here, the depression and the bipolar is a mental illness.
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to soapbox about it, but you can't have it both ways. You gotta handle that shit. And Bradshaw is a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, it's a transitional point. Like with Hugh Morris getting fired from the developmental territory because of
verbally abusing.
Verbally abusing stuff. You look at what some of the other guys, what some of those guys came up with, and the way they were treated and spoken to, they've been like verbally abused. I dealt with some of those things that I worked in both. I've worked in an office and I've worked on a construction site, and there's things in certain worlds that it's tough to say. You got to accept it. And it's not even that. It's almost like you have to have. It was part of the training, at least in Bill DeMont's point of view, that you got to put you have to have a tough skin, both physically and mentally.
All right,
to work in that business. And
I get that, but on the flip side, I'd like to kind of talk about that for a minute with DeMott. You got DeMott who got fired. Billy Gunn got fired for that sort of shit. Bob Holly got fired for that sort of shit. Why is JBL over here? Why is JBL immune from that? Why, because DeMott, it wasn't a huge star. You know, Bob Holly was a star. He's a mid-carder. Billy Gunn was a pretty decent star during the Attitude Era. But why did they get shafted and fired over this when JBL, who is a known bully? I mean, it's no secret.
and
Why does he still get to keep his job and kind of just get like, get the whole boys will be boys kind of thing? I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's got to be because he's just in with the in crowd and being a former champ and being, a buddy and being a, he's definitely one of Vince's
inner circle.
Baby. I was gonna say like one of Vince's like. He's the type of guy, he's that prototypical guy that Vince likes. It's this big, it's why when he first brought him in,
I get that, but it goes against everything else you fucking preached.
And
I can't.
I'm not. There's not a good reason for it, but.
Can we put it on a different level here?
JBL got away with. Remember the Nazi thing that he did in Germany?
Oh my God! Yeah, he did. That was pretty awful. That has been brought up in the articles that I've read. This is the same guy that when touring in Germany, did the goose step. He did the goose step and then the Heil Hitler, and you're like, that's against the law in Germany. That's not just
that's just poor taste.
Right. I think why JBL has gotten away with so much of it is because he gave Joey Styles shit and Joey Styles knocked him out. He gave the Blue Meanie shit and Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie beat the fuck out of him. Right. Because that's the way those guys used to deal with it. Now with the attitude has changed. Well, so JBL, I'm sure he's getting a free pass from Vince McMahon because JBL is a product of a different era,
right?
Which it can't.
Well, here's where I'm going. I'm going a different direction. I see where you're both coming from, and I can see your valid points. For me, it's, he busted open the Blue Meanie, a wrestler. He busted open, or he did this to the other guy, and it's a wrestler. This is a commentator. This is not, if they did this to Jim Ross, I take that back.
Jim Ross is a bad example because they've done this.
Yeah, because they did the whole thing where they were making fun of his Bell palsy. But I'm just saying, this is not an old school guy and an old school guy. This isn't apples and apples just doing what they do. This is a guy who was never from wrestling. He came from a background of MMA fight, like watching, not participating, watching and commentating. He is a broadcast journalist.
That's part of
the best.
That's That's exactly why it's happening, because he didn't come from wrestling.
Right. And that's why they're saying, well, you got the Observer Report, award for best commentator, but fuck you, because you've only been in wrestling for 2 years, where we've been doing this for 25 plus years.
Wasn't Ronaldo didn't he work in the Indies?
He did New Japan before Jim Ross did it. But again, that was only 3 or 4 years ago.
I heard Natalia telling a story about working with Ronaldo like 15 years ago.
Because
I guess that's what I thought. And this is from a different story. I knew he was newer to being on big broadcast television, but I thought he had been in the business. And even in legitimate sports, I think there's always been a problem with when you pair up somebody who's a non-athlete journalist with somebody who's there because they're an athlete. Like, and this is a not that, and it's weird. I'm trying not to. I feel like I'm defending JBL when I really don't want to. I'm just kind of. I know why it's happening, and it's not necessarily that I agree with it, but I think it's almost like the frog and the scorpion.
Yeah.
It's in his nature, and you're not going to change them, and they're going to decide whether they want to have this guy that's been working for them for 25 years, get rid of him or get rid of the guy that's been working for him for 9 months.
Who's better at what he does?
Yeah.
JBL is shit.
Well, hey, I did just look it up.
All he just tells about is Michael. That's all he does.
Right. Well, and I did just look that the information up. He did commentate during Stampede Wrestling in the late 90s for a short bit. So it's still, even in the looks of it, he did 1 year of commentary on a TV show in Canada that didn't reach major markets in the United States. So he still wasn't well known or one of the boys. I just, I thought this was going to go bad. As I texted you guys today, they muted the crowd mics because of consistent chants of Fire Bradshaw and We Love Morrow. Just continuing. And if you look online, you can find phone footage on YouTube and you'll hear it. It is deafening loud. And they had to mute that out and change the sound on live TV.
And that's got to tell them something. And the fact that they are ignoring that shit pisses me off.
Especially with the Be a Star thing.
And I get it. I get that Bradshaw is old school, Vince is old school, and it's the locker room shit. But you cannot fucking allow that to happen.
It's not as bad as like what Pat Patterson used to do to the dudes in the 80s.
And
you'd be sitting there talking to somebody and Pat Patterson rests his dick on your shoulder. It's
yeah, and
again, different time, maybe. I mean, I know.
I mean, that's.
I don't know if there's ever a point in history where it's like
okay to rest your dick on someone's shoulder.
Not that.
I'm
okay with this.
I get it, but I mean, I'm trying not to get too fired up about it.
Right.
It's a harsh thing, and here's a guy who was doing a good job, and then he can't deal with it because of who this guy is. But Howard Cosell, being a sports journalist and being a legitimate guy, could not stand when he had to work with O.J. Simpson.
Wow.
This is before OJ killed anybody at that point. Is it? Right. But it happens a lot where there's guys that it doesn't. Those worlds don't necessarily gel.
Right.
And this has been an extreme. This has been one of the very bad times where it doesn't, where it's an oil and water situation, and. What it comes down to is if Manalo's water and JBL's oil, and they're in the oil business, they're gonna keep the oil.
And I understand where you're coming from on that. Where I lie on this, on my final, what I'm thinking about this is going to turn into a really big PR situation. It already has. Sports Center is airing things about it. When Sports Center and ESPN are doing legitimate stories on wrestling, it's a problem.
Not just having Brock show up, for a Sports Center segment.
Right. It's not a wrestler coming in and working and with a coach or whatever, which he's not doing anymore. But this is the Benoit situation. Not to this extreme, but it's like, oh shit, this is going to be on just sports channels. This is going to end up on 2020. This is going to, this is going to end up because of the whole bullying thing and how everyone's all about that. Second of all, Linda McMahon is on Donald Trump's cabinet. That's a problem because it's going to make her look bad. I understand that. I don't care, but I'm not.
You know what?
It's for the best. I get it.
No.
But
I'm not getting political.
No, let's not. But I was just saying that because she is part of the cabinet, she is more visible now than she was when she unsuccessfully ran for Senate 3 times and is just living in Connecticut. You know what I mean? So it's just, this has the potential of going places that I don't think they're necessarily ready to go. And what they need to do is they need to come out and say, this is what's going to happen. We understand that there was a conflict. Mr. Ronaldo has moved on. JBL will be suspended for whatever they're going to do. They need to make a definitive decision. They can't just stand on the fence and go, he's one of the boys. They have to make a definitive decision.
But they're not.
But they're not gonna, because they're just gonna hope that it goes away.
And it will.
It'll get swept under the rug. But right now it's huge because it's just new. So
yeah, something in the sports world, something else will happen that's gonna I almost said Trump this, but I didn't want to. It'll be one of those things. Like, remember when they pulled Jerry Lawler off TV for the 13-year-old girl Man Act stuff, and there's been a few different. I've heard 2 different versions of that. How that story went away. That there was a payoff, and there was it never happened. Version of it, that it was a false claim. But it was like one of those things that's like, and then if you look at it, there was like a precedent set of Jerry Lawler and teenage girls, through the years, and everybody kind of forgets about that. You look at the history of it. Wrestling is a business that's kind of always been populated by people who can be real scumbags.
Oh yeah.
I was reading some of the things about Fabulous Moolah that get swept under the rug. Mm-hmm. When you start reading some of the stuff about Moolah, she was it's possible, that she was the worst person to ever live. In some, and especially in some people's eyes. And here's a business where she's beloved. You got to remember that we're dealing with a business that a man who murdered his wife and child is still beloved and respected by a large percentage of the male adult fans. You're saying, right now, this is so, it's a big deal now, but then in 6 months from now, people are going to be talking again. Oh, you think this WrestleMania, maybe they'll put Chris Benoit in? That conversation still comes up every year. So it's not I think in the long run, this is going to be small potatoes. It's a sad, upsetting thing, but it's they've weathered so much. When dudes were dropping dead every 28 days or whatever it was, they weathered that.
Yeah.
This is, when it comes down to it, this is a guy who had his feelings hurt. And I'm minimalizing it there, but from a business standpoint and the way these shitty type of decisions are made, that's where I think it's going to go. And it's not right, but it's what happens. There's people that are going to sit there and rationalize it. There are people that are going to sit there and say, It's not a big deal. And the people that do care are going to either be distracted, forget about it, or just become a minority voice to the point that it isn't going to make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, the best right now, I think their best bet is if they want to quell it, put JBL in a situation where he gets, you know, he gets a receipt on it somehow. You let him get beat up. You take him off TV for a month. You know, if it's a 30-day suspension, if it's a 60-day suspension, they do a storyline where you let I don't know who they have where he's on SmackDown. I don't know who they have on that SmackDown roster that, you know, they don't have a Braun Strowman or somebody over there that could really put him in a, you know, maybe Baron Corbin. It would be a good way to, well, you know, but then you're accidentally going to turn a guy face, you know, by if it's the crowd doing it. But you know what? Sami Zayn. JBL says something to Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn beats up JBL. Sami Zayn, maybe if Sami Zayn mentions, you know, I'm tired of you being a bully to everybody around here, and people, you know, either having to deal with it or leave. And then Sami Zayn, you know, puts JBL through a table, puts JBL, you know, takes him out. He's off TV for a little bit. And then it's kind of, as far as the fans are concerned, he's kind of paid a due for it,
I guess.
And it, you know, and then it helps with the storyline. I don't see them firing him over this.
This situation's going to end lose-lose. Like, the fans aren't going to get what they want. Morrow's already gone.
Yeah,
they're not going to fire JBL, and unless they do something where they come out and say, like you said, you know, have someone, you know, take him out, and I don't see that happening because he's JBL. That's just he hangs his cowboy hat, and everyone's like, okay, that's JBL. That's it. He's one of the longest reigning champions in history, and it's like, I don't agree with it, but they're gonna, you know, sweep it under the rug, and it's gonna be this never happened.
Yeah,
but nothing they can do about it right now. I mean, I think we just have to watch either the water boil over in the pot, or someone's going to come over and turn the stove off. One of the two things is going to happen. I think the water's going to boil over, and then it's just going to be like, oh, we got to have a mess to clean up. That's it. And then they're going to clean the mess up.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's going to be damage control, and that's it. They're going to make him do a Be a Star commercial.
And it's going to be the most, you know, disingenuous Be a Star commercial ever.
Right.
You know what? And this is the you know, more so than a commercial, and this is something that he has the ability to do and make a difference because he has money from other aspects. Let him say I'm sorry out of his wallet.
That ain't gonna happen.
You know, if he says, and this is something he'd have to do on his own because I don't think Vince can fine him for this, or that he would. But if he says, "I'm going to give $50,000 to, you know, whatever," and then if Vince matches, you know, if whatever, if there's a move like that, I think that's the most like legitimate thing, like a thing that'd actually help somebody in the long run. Because at this point, if you fire them, then you're just down two, you know, they're just down two announcers. And
Are you really down two announcers?
Yeah, well,
really?
I mean,
Corey
Graves,
you're a down announcer and JBL.
Well, and Corey Graves could easily run for all by himself at this point in time. I mean, Cole, I really feel like Cole shouldn't even be there anymore.
Yeah, and Atunga is there. Why?
Is he on Raw now? Is that what
He's not
happened?
Raw. They traded Tunga for Saxton.
That's an even swap of nobody cares. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to get an end to this anytime soon. I think literally it'll just go away and it'll be swept under the carpet in typical, what steroids? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't in court. I don't know what you're talking about. That kind of shit. But that's all I got for tonight. That drained me.
Yeah, me too.
That was a rough one. Can we end this just a little bit about the end of the era there? I know we're running a little long here, but I watched and saw pictures of them cleaning up the stadium at WrestleMania, and his hat, jacket, and gloves had not been moved, and they had broke the ring down except for the platform that it sat on. And Vince sent someone out, especially, grabbed the stuff and respectfully walked it back to the locker room. But it was the last.
Awesome.
It was the last thing to go before the ring was fully disassembled, which I think is amazing. That's just
absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure we will see him one other time, and that's when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we will never see him on TV again. That's just how he is. I'll be sad.
I think I would be sad if he shows up again.
Right.
I would be more sad if he comes back for some reason. Like, I really think that's the thing. Like, I agree. It needs to be Hall of Fame induction. And I don't even know if he should go in next year.
Nah, it's too soon.
Yeah. I mean,
I think The Rock should go in before him because The Rock has been retired longer.
Nah.
Just my thought.
Yeah, you can't use that though because Edge is in before The Rock, and The Rock is.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
but Edge would have still. I feel like Edge.
Hall of Fame next year is New Orleans, and that's it's very voodoo.
Yeah.
So that might be a good one to put him in.
And I think
Papa Shango in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's the Godfather.
Yeah, it's Godfather.
The Godfather is, but not Papa Shango.
They put him in again. Him and the Undertaker are buddies. I know Charles Wright and the Undertaker are buddies. This is something, and I heard this secondhand. I mean, and it was a pretty reliable, at least from what I heard. And this came back. This is years ago, back when Candido died. And Candido's dad is a friend of my mom's, and he was in contact with different wrestlers at the time and talking about things. And he said that the Undertaker was a big proponent of some kind of a healthcare system for the wrestlers. So I could if he is ever around, and this is going to be like outside of the business, this is going to be more of Mark Calloway, who performed as the Undertaker, is going to come. I could, and this is something that I heard 15 years ago, or whenever, however long ago that was that Chris died. That he's going to become a outspoken proponent for a healthcare, some kind of an organized,
organized union for wrestlers, to make them more than just independent contractors like they're listed as now. Yeah, they're not employees that they don't. But and
it stemmed from the Undertaker being a guy who made more than a good living on this over a long period of time, and then just looking out for the other guys.
Yeah. Well, and he also made a lot of money using commercial real estate like JBL had. Yeah. So I believe he co-owns a building in Dallas, like that it was his plan. He invested the capital, and now he is worth even more money than he was before because of that. I did see he posted a video online talking about a George Strait song, and he was not in character. It was Mark Calloway.
Yeah.
And he even kind of said, "Hey everybody, this is Mark. I was a Dallas person. I was born and raised in Dallas. And here's where I'll die." Like, and there was no Undertaker at all. at all. It was Mark, and I was like, oh, this is for real.
Yeah,
Because
and I really do think that the
That's
way
it.
the show ended Sunday night,
he left the
that
Undertaker
really
in the ring.
He left the Undertaker in the ring. Like
Right.
I really like, even with when the induction happens,
He'll be Mark.
he'll be Mark. I don't think we'll see.
Yeah.
Or
I think. Oh shit.
I don't know how much you guys have been watching, but remember the Undertaker was brought to us by Brother Love.
Jesus, please.
Oh fuck no!
Brother Love.
Oh fuck no! If he steps foot in the Impact Zone,
Me and Mark Calloway is in the Impact Zone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he's not so mean anymore. I really think he's definitely done. And the way he was talking on that video was definitely just his normal. You could hear this. You could hear the Southern accent. Oh yeah, yeah.
he's not Ric Flair who's going to retire and then show up in the Impact Zone.
Well, yeah, but
Ric Flair needed them.
I saw a diagram once that had a picture of the Undertaker standing, and it had all his injuries, and there was at least 50. And I'm going, holy shit, I didn't even know about that one, or I didn't know about that one. And I had to go back and go, well, when did that happen? Oh, let me watch that match and see if I could see it happen. Oh shit, there it is. Like, but I really, as someone in 1990 at 8 years old, sorry boys, when he was introduced, I was like, oh my God, who's this guy? Hulk who? Like this was
that was
to me
the same way with me. Like, I will never forget the first time I saw him in a ring, and I could not believe a guy his size moved like that.
Moved that way. Right. Exactly. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to model my entire life after this guy and his creepy little manager. And I love this. When most of the kids, they were like, oh my God, Mom and Dad, why is this person here? And it's like, no, Mom, let's go to Hershey. I want to see the Undertaker. And she's like, are you sure you don't want to see the Ultimate? I want to see the Undertaker. God damn it. Like, that was it. And she was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, that's cool.
I was watching enough of both shows when the Undertaker showed up that I was like, oh, that's one of the skyscrapers.
Yeah.
I'm like,
exactly.
And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him like, Sid Vicious or the other one or I'm like,
right.
Like, I remember telling my dad, I'm like, remember Danny Spivey that used to, he had a tag team. This guy was in a tag team with Danny Spivey on the other show.
Right. Well, and I just,
and I'm like, oh, he's the Undertaker now. I'm like, I guess that's kind of better than whatever he did when he was a guy whose name I didn't know.
Right. And to see him, I watched an old match of his from NWA when he was with Paulie Dangerously as his manager, and he was Mean Mark Callis, and his finisher was the Heart Punch, and I was like, but really? But he still did that thing where he walked across the ropes, only he walked across and did an elbow drop off of it, and I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. Why did you never do that? Like, oh, because that's more bodily injury.
That was the moment at WrestleMania when I really realized it was over.
When he didn't do that this year.
When he didn't do that. And
right.
All right. Yeah. He was, there were two moments. One was when he came up 3/4 of the way down the ramp.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, okay, yeah, it's done.
Well, yeah, I had a feeling. I knew they were going to do something. I thought they were going to bring him in on something. I thought he was going to come in on a hearse
I kind of knew this was gonna be it. Like, we all kind of knew, but when I realized he came up like 3/4 of the way down that ridiculously long entrance ramp, I went, okay, all right, yeah, he probably can't move as well, and then even in the ring, he wasn't moving well.
No.
And then he didn't do old school, and it was like, all right, yep, we're done.
Well, you could see him wincing every step he took, too. It was like, okay, as much as I don't want to see this happen, let's tie Old Yeller to the tree and shoot him. Because this is not the Undertaker I want to remember. I want to remember the one. I was like, please, dear God, don't do that through over the rope dive because you will actually die this time.
Yeah.
You know, I remember all those years when he would do that with Shawn Michaels and stuff, and I was like, there's no way that he is even going to touch that. And I was like, this is definitely a shell of a man that I love to watch for 20 years. And I was like, this needs to be over. Like, and I cried when he took his gloves off, and I was like, oh, this is for real. This is it.
Yeah.
Like this is it. Oh my God.
Well, he was kind of that last. We kind of talked, in a way about JBL being like the last of that older. He was for us, for at least, kind of for you, but for Mike and myself, he really was the last guy that was left.
Well, because he showed up in 90, which was the end of the old school era, moving into the new generation. Then into,
the guys we grew up with are all, retired.
We're dead.
Flair and HBK and Austin, and it was like those guys are, Foley, those guys are done.
Yep.
Well, Undertaker started, and he had legitimate feuds with Hogan, Savage, Warrior, his first Jimmy Snuka, Jake Roberts, all the 80s. He was an 80s guy. He started as an 80s, even though technically it was 1990, but out of that golden age, whatever you want to call it. And then, transferred into something else, evolved the character enough through the years and became different things, and was a standard for you, and just one of those people that everybody knew. Yeah. I used to always make a joke when I had long hair, and I worked in Patterson, and I kind of realized that a lot of the black guys my age, from that setting, the urban setting, grow up with white guys with long hair. I went to high school with 60 white dudes that had long hair. These guys had two references. It was Jesus and the Undertaker were the only white guys with long hair that they knew.
And that's awesome.
And that's where the Undertaker is kind of in people's, in this in certain people's mindsets, and there were a lot of guys that used to, they'd be like, the Undertaker. I used to get that all the time from guys. And I don't look anything like the Undertaker, but long hair, beard, that was the reference point that everybody had. And that's how much of a, cultural that people kind of held them at that same identifiable.
Right. And he's a guy that for 27 years didn't break kayfabe. If he was on a TV show, he was the Undertaker. He wasn't Mark. Even when he was the biker, he was still the Undertaker. They were like, they would have him on Jimmy Fallon or whatever, whoever was, at that time. And he'd be like, he was the Undertaker, but he was biker Undertaker. He was the American Badass. Yeah. It wasn't, oh, hey, Mark, you can go back and watch the footage of Regis and Kathy Lee when him and Paul Bearer were on the show, and he was just sitting there, and Regis was like, I'm not gonna die today, am I? Because you look like death. And it was like, yeah, well, and Paul just talked for him, and it was like, oh man. So I think the part that really got to me wasn't just the hat and the gloves and such. When he walked back up the aisle and he put his hand up like he always did, and they took him down into the ramp area, and then there was a couple of strikes of lightning effects, and then there was a single gong and all the lights went out in the freaking stadium, and it was like dead quiet. There was nothing. The commentators didn't say anything. The crowd was dead quiet, and it was like, WrestleMania is over, and it just ended by one final gong of The Undertaker, and that is it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I guess I'll go to bed now, and cry myself to sleep.
And I guess we can end on this. because I just thought of the one time I can think of Mark Calloway not being the Undertaker after the Undertaker character began,
I know where you're going.
where he was in the public eye, and it was Suburban Commando.
Urban Commando. No wonder this dude doesn't talk.
You're gonna die, Ramsey.
Oh man, that's
Yes, the man who as we eulogize the career of the bounty hunter from Suburban Commando. Thank
the killer
you and
rocket.
good night.
I don't even know. That's just one. That's one where you just.
Yeah,
Oh,
kind
my
of.
ears are sweaty.
Ugh.
So I guess that's where we will end.
You're gonna have to edit a single Undertaker gong. to end
I
it.
will try to edit a single Undertaker gong in as we.
If you need it, I have one.
I'm sure
it's a
you
ring-
do. I'm sure
The
I have one.
ringtone.
I'm sure I have one somewhere too. But anyway, you know where to find us. We're on Stitcher. We're on iTunes. channelz.wordpress.com. We're on Facebook. We'll visit Channel Z Podcasts. So I guess we'll do this again eventually. We're such slackers. God damn it, we're slackers. But anyway, I'm Chris,
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tom.
and I don't know how to end this.
Dead silence
Dead silence
and a
and
gong
just a single gong.
I'm not done with you yet.
and a tear.